On behalf of Mass CEC and communities that may be considering running a HeatSmart or Solarize campaign in the future, I want to thank you for participating today in this interview. Our goal today is to capture your experience and the knowledge you gained from running your campaign so that it can be passed on to other communities in Massachusetts. For our viewers today that may be less familiar with Solarize and HeatSmart, these programs seek to increase the adoption of small-scale solar electricity and clean heating and cooling technologies in the participating communities through grassroots educational campaigns, which are mainly driven by local volunteers. These community-led campaigns really help simplify the process of installing clean energy systems by pre-vetting an installer and offering transparent pricing for homeowners. So now I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Charlotte Fall, and I'm the Community Clean Energy Fellow at Mass CEC, helping to develop the HeatSmart and Solarize Toolkit. I'm joined today by Bob Zog and Brad Hubbard-Nelson, who are the HeatSmart coaches for HeatSmart Concord and Carlisle in the pilot program in 2018. I'll also mention that this campaign was a partnership between these two communities and also the town of Lincoln. So with that, let's get started. Can you quickly introduce yourselves and briefly explain your role and responsibilities in the Concord-Carlisle Lincoln HeatSmart campaign?
Yeah, I can start. I'm Bob Zog in Carlisle, and I was the Carlisle coach for our HeatSmart campaign, and I was also the lead coach who coordinated with Mass CEC for the program.
And I'm Brad Hubbard-Nelson, a resident of Concord on our Sustainable Energy Committee, and Bob got us going with the grant proposal after we had actually an interest group for a couple of years before that. So it was a great opportunity for us to do something we wanted to do.
Prior to your HeatSmart campaign, were you involved in any clean energy or climate action initiatives?
Well, I was and continue to be on the Carlisle Energy Task Force. I'm currently the chair, and that's how I originally got connected with volunteers in Concord, I think back in 2015. And that actually wasn't the first time our two towns had tried to collaborate on promoting heat pumps, but that's when I got involved and reinvigorated the effort, and it wasn't too long after that where Brad and others joined as well. So we were already a team before the HeatSmart Mass program started.
And I could add that Concord being a municipal light plant town, we have had similar sustainability programs run by our Sustainable Energy Committee, but they've been a little bit different. They've been a little bit more really your own because we don't qualify for everything. But we had a Solarize, and we had a program, and we had a Green Your Heat program for getting people to insulate oil-heated homes. Those are a couple examples.
Could you explain a little bit about how you had to work with the municipal light plant in order to run your campaign?
Well, we worked a little bit ahead of time during the proposal phase to make sure the light plant had the rebates that were equivalent to the investor-owned utilities.
What were a few of the most effective strategies your team utilized for marketing and outreach in your community?
I think the thing I learned is that there's no single method that works. When we, in the surveys we did, we found that people checked off a lot of different places. So I think people need to see the messaging multiple times in multiple places. The key, I think, was getting them to come to one of our events where they could really hear a little bit more and get to meet our installers. But just to get them to the events, articles, letters, lawn signs, websites, direct email lists. As Brad mentioned earlier, working through community organizations to reach out. All those were important, and it's hard to pick one that you could rely on without doing all of them.
I'd like to mention one thing. We got one of the high school classes at Concord-Carlisle High School to write individual letters to the 1,000 homeowners which were identified in a segmentation study as being the most likely candidates. So that was something that Mass CEC helped us with through the consultant doing the segmentation study. We just sent the letters out, and those handwritten letters, I think, did a good job. So keeping your eye out for creative things you can do like that is worth it.
Did you experience any challenges due to running the campaign as a partnership between three municipalities?
Given the fact that we had a good relationship already established, that actually was a positive and not a negative in any way. I think the only minor challenge was the fact that Concord has a municipal light plant, so they have a municipal electricity supply. So their electricity costs and the incentives available for heat pumps were different than in Lincoln or Carlisle. So we did have to tailor some of our materials, and we did have to explain the differences when we had community events, but that was really a minor detail. I think the synergies we had being able to work as a team really helped. I know here in Carlisle, there's just no way we could have had the volunteer base to run this program on our own. And if it weren't for the help from Concord and Lincoln volunteers, we couldn't have been successful in Carlisle.
What advice would you give to communities seeking to run a campaign in partnership with other communities?
Well, we did have to set up. We set up a little memorandum of understanding in the town governments, just as the way it should work, because this is something that makes the administrators more comfortable. What's our responsibility here? What's their responsibility? That has to be straightened out. But that's something that our town manager was pretty familiar with. They kind of did that pretty easily.
If you were running this campaign again, what is one thing you would do that you didn't do the first time?
One of the things that we didn't succeed in, and we had the intention of, is doing a better outreach to low and moderate income families. When you get busy, and we were quite busy, we did what we did. We had our public events and outreach and stuff, but I don't think we really did some of the legwork that we could have done to do better in that other segment.
And do you think your campaign has inspired additional climate action within your community?
Well, we can say it certainly inspired us, the volunteers, Brad and I, and many, many others at this point, to form the HeatSmart Alliance and try to continue the work. And I can say with great certainty that if it were not for the HeatSmart Mass program, the HeatSmart Alliance would not exist today. And we currently have 20 communities, volunteers in 20 communities involved with our HeatSmart Alliance program, and that is really, the HeatSmart Alliance is an effort to continue the work of HeatSmart on an ongoing basis. So we want to accelerate the adoption of heat pumps in homes across Massachusetts, and we've got many volunteers who were previously or currently are involved in HeatSmart Mass.
What support do you think the HeatSmart Alliance could provide for communities looking to run a HeatSmart campaign on their own?
Well, we've got one community already, Lexington, who's doing just that, and they're working with us. A couple of things we've been able to do, not only do we have a collection of volunteers who have a lot of experience, and some of that gained through the HeatSmart Mass program, so we can transfer that experience, but we've also developed codified ways to run an event. How do you organize an event? How do you plan an event? How do you get people to show up at an event? How do you do the little things that make the event successful? As I mentioned, we've got our coaching practice, and we're doing a lot of work now to standardize our methodologies for coaching and make sure we ask people the right questions and give people the right suggestions and recommendations based on their circumstances. So working out how to do all those things and then putting those materials in a way that we easily transfer them to new volunteers and new communities, I think is one of the biggest things that we could do to help people do the same thing. And that's really what we're looking for in HeatSmart Alliance, is to really multiply our effect, to help others learn, and to learn from them too. As we bring in new communities, we learn what they know from their past experience. So really this collective learning and collective information sharing, I think, is the key thing.
And one of the things about the HeatSmart Mass program, which I think is we often forget, is the value of being able to work with the consultants that were provided at no charge to us. That was Cadmus. And I would say the HeatSmart Alliance, if we're working with a community on running a program, we kind of have to fill that role or fill a connection to the expert knowledge needed in some cases because of, difficult technical questions, stuff like that.
Do you have any final tips for communities looking to run a HeatSmart campaign on their own? And that means without the funding and direct support you receive from Mass EEC.
If there is a community that's thinking about doing this, I'd suggest contacting the HeatSmart Alliance, getting somebody trained to be a coach, which means you have to get through understanding the basics of heat pumps and home heating and things like that. That takes a bit of time, and it's a really interesting subject. So it may be just what is needed for some people in your community.
Great. Well, I think that wraps up our interview today. I want to thank you both again so much for joining us. I think we really captured a great amount of content for our communities that are looking to run a new program themselves. So thanks again.